Welcome to Bible for Modern Minds podcast.
Our mission here is, as always, to take a stack of sources, some incredible testimony, and distill it down into what you really need to know.
And today we are going to a place known for its visible magic, Marrakesh.
Right. If you picture it, you see the vibrant colors, the spice markets, all that energy. But the source material for this deep dive, it reveals something else. They call it a heavy silence.
And that silence is the sound of fear. The sources are really clear on this. Being a follower of Christ isn't technically illegal there, but it's seen as a fundamental rupture.
A rupture. What does that mean in practice?
It means you're immediately branded a traitor to one's own culture. And that makes life, socially very dangerous.
Commitment comes with a price.
A very real one. And that's why we have to start with the origin story from our main source, Yousef. He learned his faith from his mother, who, she had to hide her Bible inside an old cookbook to keep it safe.
And she told him something that really sets the stage for everything that follows. She said, "My son, this faith will cost you dearly, but everything truly worthwhile requires sacrifice."
And that sacrifice, it isn't just a concept. It dictates every single move you make. So today, we're following this one specific, extraordinary story from Marrakesh.
It's a story that shows the ultimate cost of that commitment, but then something else. How an act of total destruction led to one of the most unexpected conversions we have ever covered.
We are tracing how faith can, quite literally, grow from ashes.
To really get the weight of this, you have to understand their daily life. Yousef described it as walking on glass. Every single day.
Any neighbor, an old friend who you had a small disagreement with, they could become an informant, a snitch.
And the consequences are terrifyingly fast. I mean, we're not just talking about being shunned.
No, not at all. The sources talk about marriages just ending. Believers losing their jobs overnight because someone found a Bible in their bag. And then there are the endless interrogations in windowless rooms.
The pressure's just constant.
Which is why these small gatherings become so vital. They are the only place you can, just breathe.
That idea of a refuge is so central to what happens next.
It is. The meeting was at the home of Nasim, an older, respected man in their community. His house was near the spice market, but inside it was this pocket of total serenity. Cedar columns, a fountain, jasmine petals on the water.
A bubble of calm. 10 people were there, just trying to forget they had to constantly look over their shoulder.
And then their calm is just shattered instantly.
The sound they heard wasn't a knock at the door.
No! The source says it was strong, rhythmic, impatient blows. And before anyone could even react, 6 boys burst in.
And this is where the betrayal must have just been gut-wrenching. These weren't strangers.
No, they were faces they knew. Kareem, the butcher's son. Ammar, the carpet seller. Rafi, the delivery guy.
Neighbors. Young men from their own community, now just consumed with this anger.
And they genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. That's the key. Kareem just immediately starts shouting, "Traitors!"
Nasim, the elder, he tries to keep things calm, but he's just shoved hard against a wall.
And that's when you see it, how quickly a shared history can just dissolve when it's fueled by what the source calls blind certainty.
The most dangerous kind.
The refuge became a battlefield in a split second.
And all that anger, it focused on one thing. The worn Bible, sitting in the center of their circle. This wasn't just any book.
It was Nasim's inheritance from his grandfather. It was the only complete copy they had for the entire community.
Kareem walks up to it, very deliberately. This wasn't just rage. It felt like he was staging something, a public humiliation.
He stares at the book, and then he issues this challenge. Choose the Quran or this.
And then the sound. The sources describe it as dry, violent tearing.
And they give specifics. He ripped out the 23rd Psalm, the Gospel of John. He even crumpled the page with Jesus' words, "I am the way, the truth, and the life."
It was a targeted destruction. He knew what he was tearing apart.
He was trying to tear out the foundation of their hope. Then Ammar lights the fireplace.
And Kareem holds the pages over the flames, just letting them go one by one. The sensory details here are just so powerful. The smell of burning paper, melting ink.
It was like watching a part of their own hearts burn. Genesis, Proverbs, Paul's letters, all of it turning into this dense black smoke.
The physical act was done, but he saved the worst for last. He wipes his hands, throws his arms open, and just declares, "If your God is real, may he come and save you now."
And then they left. They were so sure they had extinguished something.
But what happened next inside that room is just incredible. While everyone is reeling, Yousef and Nasim are both silently repeating the same prayer.
Lord, save them, for they do not know what they are doing.
It's just an immediate radical choice. Mercy over vengeance, right in that moment.
After the door slams, they just sit there, broken, staring at the ashes of what they called the living symbol of their faith.
And finally, Samir, an engineer, he breaks the silence. He asks the question everyone was thinking.
Why didn't God do anything? Why did he let this happen?
And Nasim's answer is, well, it's the theological core of this whole story. He says, very calmly, God is not a bodyguard.
Wow.
He says he does not respond to blasphemy with fire from heaven. He responds with mercy.
Think about that. In that moment, to say that, he's shifting the entire focus away from what Kareem was demanding, a show of power, and toward their own internal response.
Forgiveness.
Yeah.
Even when it's costly.
It's a defining moment. So what did they do?
They couldn't just leave the ashes there. They carefully gathered them up in a small cloth bag, the kind you'd use for bread, and they put it on a high shelf.
To remember.
Yes. And then Nasim insisted their very next act had to be praying for Kareem, Ammar, and Rafi.
Yousef said that prayer felt like swallowing stones. It wasn't easy or natural. It was a conscious choice.
And this is where the timeline just goes into hyperdrive. 3 hours. Just 3 hours after Kareem's challenge. If your God is real, save you now. The phone rings.
It was a man named Rashid, and he was breathless. Kareem had been in a serious accident on his motorcycle.
He'd lost control on a rocky curve. He was rushed to Ibn Tufayl Hospital. Critical condition. And the doctors kept saying the same thing.
What was that? They don't know how he's still alive.
The timing is just impossible to ignore. For that community, it couldn't have been a coincidence.
But for Yousef, this triggered a huge internal conflict. He had just prayed for mercy.
But the human part of you wants justice.
Exactly. And he's wrestling with that. He realizes he doesn't actually want Kareem to die. So his prayer changes. It becomes, don't let him die. Not like this. Give him another chance. It's the ultimate test of their prayer.
When Yousef gets to the hospital, the whole scene has flipped. Kareem's family is there, Ammar and Rafi are there, and all that anger from before, it's just gone.
Replaced by what?
Raw, uncontrolled fear,
Yeah.
grief. And seeing that, Yousef says it changed everything for him. He realized they weren't monsters.
They were just boys who thought they were protecting the truth, but only repeated the fear they inherited.
That insight, that empathy, that's what opens the door for what happens next. 3 days later, Kareem wakes up, and his very first request, he wants to see Yousef.
Wow. So what did he say?
He confesses everything. He says he wasn't just riding home that night. He was speeding, trying to outrun the guilt from what he'd done. And then he says, I didn't fall by accident. It was something else.
Something else.
He describes a phenomenon, not a crash, a blinding white light that actually hurt his eyes. It came from above, enveloped him. Everything else just vanished. The road, the sound of the bike, everything.
And then he heard a voice. A voice he said was not human, and it was coming from everywhere at once.
And the voice only whispered 4 words. But these 4 words were the direct answer to the challenge he had made in Nasim's house.
What were they?
The voice said, now you know me.
Now you know me. Not judgment, not anger, just recognition.
Exactly. Kareem just wept. He confessed everything. But his request wasn't just for forgiveness. He said, I need to know this God who had mercy even when I didn't.
He wanted to learn.
He begged Yousef, teach me, please, no matter the cost.
So Nasim was right. God's response wasn't fire. It was transformation. In the heart of the persecutor himself.
Kareem was discharged 3 weeks later. He needed a cane to walk, but he was spiritually on fire. But of course, his conversion brought back the same old danger.
Surveillance.
Intense surveillance. They had to change everything. No more meetings at Nasim's. They started meeting secretly in public places.
Like where?
Quiet parks, Cafe Arana, sometimes just inside Yousef's car. They used the excuse that Kareem needed to walk to strengthen his leg. That was their cover story.
3 weeks after that, Kareem asks to be baptized. They have to do it in complete secrecy. At sunrise, in a dry riverbed 30 kilometers outside the city.
Just 4 people there as witnesses. And they all recommitted to that same promise. Follow Christ no matter what the cost.
And that bill came due very, very quickly. As Kareem started sharing his new faith, the surveillance on the whole group just clamped down.
Nasim noticed a man watching his house. Except the nurse saw a gray car parked outside her clinic for days.
And here's a really telling detail about how this works systemically. It wasn't always the religious police. The sources say occupational safety inspectors started showing up at Samir's engineering job.
To ask about what?
To ask about his free time, his associates. They use bureaucracy as a weapon.
It's insidious.
When direct persecution is messy, you use economic threats, safety violations.
Yeah.
You dismantle the community indirectly.
And it worked. The police raided Fatima's house, found a hidden Bible, and interrogated her for 6 hours straight. After that, Samir knew he had to get out.
He fled to Spain and claimed religious asylum. Others followed. A young couple went to France, and that community of 15, it shrank to just 6.
It was an exodus, driven by fear, and then came the final painful blow. They found out who the informer was.
Let me guess. Not a stranger.
It was Ibrahim, Yousef's polite neighbor, and he did it out of conviction. He truly believed he was cleansing the neighborhood of traitors.
That's always the hardest betrayal, the one that comes from a place of moral certainty.
It's been 2 years since all of this, and the community is still scattered. Yousef himself had to move to the U.S. because Ibrahim just kept watching him.
But the scattering actually forced the seeds to spread. Isla, the nurse, she's still at the hospital. She uses her job, comforting the sick, as her silent witness.
And through that quiet compassion, she's converted 3 of the other nurses.
And Fatima?
A much harder story. She fled to Barcelona after her husband threatened to take their children and harm her. But the most incredible story is Kareem's.
The Persecutor.
He moved to the Atlas Mountains, where there's less state control. He still walks with that cane. But he now leads a network of 12 new converts. They meet in caves and in open fields.
So the destruction he intended.
It's been reversed tenfold through his own life. And his own reflection on it just ties it all together. He said, "The pages I burned multiplied. For everyone destroyed, God planted 10 new hearts."
And Yousef, does he still hold on to that anger toward Ibrahim the informer?
No. He says he still prays for him. His reasoning is the final word on their faith. He said, "We pray for those who persecute us, not because we're good, but because we serve a God who is perfect."
It's a story of relentless grace in the face of relentless opposition.
What a journey. From a silent room in Marrakesh to a fire, an accident, and the complete transformation of the man who lit the match, the lesson is so clear. Fire and hatred, they can't erase this.
The pages that burned became seeds.
And we have to close with this one last twist, which shows this whole cycle is still in motion. Yousef's new contact, a young man named Mired, who's asking about faith. He's a 17-year-old boy whose father beats him for scribbling New Testament verses in his notebooks.
So the resistance is still just as fierce.
But so is the curiosity. And the final message Yousef got from Kareem, his former persecutor, just brings it all full circle.
What did it say?
He said, "Another young man accepted Jesus today. His name is Anwar. He is 19 years old. Can you believe he burned his own Bible a year ago? God really has a sense of humor, don't you think?"
If you have ever had to choose between staying silent and staying faithful, this deep dive is just a powerful reminder that life can and does spring from the darkest ashes. Thank you for diving deep with us.